Audio, Athorax here, and today we're going to be covering up Zenith. So without further ado, I'm going to quickly showcase what it can do. For the purposes of this showcase, we're going to be using a training boss dummy, which also hits us. And essentially we want to be hit to be able to provide a decent amount of damage. As you can see, Zenith provides multiple instances of damage, sometimes going up to 300 billion a hit, we're absolutely able to farm decently well Torment 12, and the build does about bit 115 at the moment, with capabilities of going to about 120, potentially even 125 with good min-maxing. Pretty fun, pretty good for AoE clears, and generally speaking, very tough and able to withstand a lot of punishment. As you can see, we're pretty much walking around with 75k HP and a barrier for temerity. So we'll show you the skill tree first. Essentially, we've gone with Fanaticism Aura, which is pretty standard, so more attack speed and more critical strike chance. Essentially, we want to hit those values and get the 100% of each of them. Rite of Vengeance gives us a bit more multiplicative damage, more passive stacks, so we get even more crit and attack speeds, a little bit more potency as well. So then we go with Defiance Aura. Now, Defiance is pretty cool because it gives you more max life, gives you on his own just more resistances and armor, pretty awesome. Increases the healing, which is pretty good for temerity and just generally for keeping up that barrier, and more damage. You could go with Rite of Prayer if you're suffering from like defenses point of view and stuff like that, so you could get a bit more healing, and yeah, it's an option, but endgame you kind of want to stick with Rite of Might for maximum effective damage. Now we've gone with the Holy Light Aura, and the only reason we've really gone with it is because of its capability to provide stagger, and we kind of want to stagger sometimes bosses, especially at bigger pits, for a little bit more safety. And that's pretty much about it with it. Now we also have Rally here. Rally is not on a skill bar, as you kind of might notice, but Rally gets activated by a Talisman Set, and it gives us damage reduction, so that's why we have Rally. And we've, even though like it's not being used actively by us, when it procs, all of these bonuses affected, so the duration is quite good. Faith at this point not really necessary, but still, and then a bit more movement speed. Now this is one of the more important things: Aegis. Aegis gives us 42% block chance. Now with the new expansion, things have been changed a little bit, and we don't have like a lot of block chance from, like, say, passives and stuff like that. So using Aegis and having a good uptime of Aegis is pretty good, and its block chance is pretty insane at this point. So yeah, we reduce its cooldown, increases duration, and with a little bit more cooldown from gear, we are able to get 7 seconds and a duration of 8 seconds. So yeah, we can go with pretty much this one, which gives us a bit more resolve stacks, which is a decent way to go about it. Now when it comes to Consecration is pretty good because of its healing that it provides, also a little bit more damage, and of course it has a bigger size if you go with the Hallowed Ground. And yeah, we've gone with the duration here, and at this point we've not used any of these two. They're not really like serving us any purpose for our build, but essentially with Consecration you get more healing, and because of that you transfer it into a barrier. As long as you have a full barrier, the healing obviously continues, so if you take some hits and stuff like that, the barrier just replenishes. As long as you stay inside Consecration, you're pretty much going to be okay. Now moving on, last but not least, good old Zenith. Now there are ways where you can play with other variations, but for the purposes of this video we've chosen Sermon of Steel. Now Sermon of Steel is I find it a very good option because it just kind of allows you to continue the fight and things go smoothly with it. The damage is kind of consistent, whilst with Sunder there are ways to make Sunder work, but Sunder kind of tends to provide a little bit more less AoE damage and a little bit more I don't know, less consistent damage at this point. So yeah, going with Unstoppable while Zenith is active is a pretty good option. And of course we make enemies weakened by using Zenith, so pretty cool. Now when it comes to the skill, when it comes to the gear, essentially we have gone with Air of Perdition. Now Air of Perdition is Not something you'd like to use for Zenith ideally, but at this point its multiplicative damage is pretty good. Its critical strike value is also quite helpful, and the lucky hit chance serves actually a very good purpose. And I'll get to that in a bit, but essentially, yeah, we kind of want these values, and they're really good. So yeah, moving on, we got a legendary chest. Now you could go with Tyrell's Might, but I would recommend going with a legendary chest. Whether you're gonna use layered walls, which I have used as an aspect, which my block damage reduction is increased by about 40%, or you're gonna use Glyn's Anvil with resolve stacks, is a bit of an open discussion at this point. Like going with the resolve stacks, it will definitely increase your all damage reduction, but at the same time, Paladin is in a very unique spot where it can have at the same time multiple layer defenses, right? So we can have all damage reduction, we can have block damage reduction, and even though you can increase your all damage reduction by a very good value, we pretty much reach about 47% once Rally is active with damage reduction. So you could go the other way where you remove these 40%, so you only have 20% or something of the sort, obviously diminishing returns by stacking things up. You could go this way, and then you could increase your damage reduction to 85% or something of the sort. At this point, you could go even further with resolve stacks for the sake of maximum life. So Glyn's Anvil is pretty much a very solid choice as well at this point, but yeah, layered wards is just stacking up multiple defenses is also a very good way to go about it. So yeah, these are pretty much your two options. When it comes to the gloves, we've gone with Revelator's aspects. As long as we have 3 or more Fervor stacks, we gain double damage, so it goes to like 65%. As you can see, we've really banked up on damage here as much as we can get, a little bit more crit strike chance. Now, next up, Temerity. Pretty good for hardcore situations and just for survival. You might want to go with the Boat's Will if you play softcore, if you just want more damage and you're okay with you know, playing a bit more dangerously and things like that. But it will definitely help and maybe reach those 400 billion damage values and stuff like that on softcore. And in general, with that huge amount of HP, you are more or less okay, like not particularly immortal, but definitely able to withstand a bit more punishment. So T-Boats is an option and a very decent option for damage. Now, when it comes to the boots, we've gone with the Cursed Touch. Now, the reason why we have a Cursed Touch is we don't have any other sources of making enemies vulnerable at the moment, and it kind of works quite well, even though it has only 40% lucky hit chance, which in truth it translates to having 21.5% chance to make something vulnerable. Zenith provides multiple instances of damage, like 6-7 attacks and all these things, so it's actually able to make targets vulnerable decently fast, and as soon as you get the Accursed Touch, it doesn't go away for a long time. So it's pretty much a decent option. Now, we've got a bit more strength as usual, and we have attacks reduce evades cooldown reduction. The reason why we have attacks reduce evades cooldown reduction is because by using Zenith and by using our evade, we're able to reposition ourselves by continuing to cast Zenith all the time, and it's pretty decent, essentially. As long as you are able to kind of wind up Zenith, and I'll get to the winding point a little bit later, you're pretty much able to have an infinite duration of Zenith, right? And once you get that wind up and going, you can just use your evades and just keep on using Zenith. And also, it's very good because you can essentially reposition yourself away from explosions and from all kinds of different stuff. So pretty much a very must-have affix at this point. And you kind of don't want to stop casting Zenith. If you actually stop casting Zenith and you start just moving the old school way by using, you know, normal movement, Zenith will eventually expire. But if you wind up Zenith completely to the point where like its timer, you know, just depletes itself very slowly, you're able to continue to like pretty much use Zenith all the time and keep on dashing. So when you're clearing up a dungeon or anything else, you kind of want to make sure that you are actually dashing and moving forward with Zenith and just doing this kind of a movement rather than just using good old movement speed, because otherwise Zenith just disappears. If it disappears, you have 11 seconds cooldown. There is a way, there is a workaround about it, but if you want to stay tanky and kind of very durable, you kind of have to do more or less what I'm suggesting. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Now when it comes to Griswold's Opus, it's just good. 50% more multiplicative damage and a chance to lucky hit chance to do double damage with critical strike damage. So that's why we really want the lucky hit chance to be high here, and that's why we kind of want the Air of Perdition. It's just quite decent. And yeah, moving on, we've got the Herald of the Zakarum. Now with the Herald of the Zakarum, it's just insane. Gives you 50% more strength, more resistances, more armor, makes you absolutely more tanky, and most importantly 40% block chance. So between Herald of the Zakarum, Aegis, and a little bit more block chance from Paragon Boards, we're able to reach 99.5% block chance. There are ways where you can reach 100 by removing some of these gems, which is possible, and putting Serum Vex, so you have 100%. You're going to lose a little bit damage because of it, but it's an option where you can do that. But essentially that's why we're going all over the place stacking up strength, is because of this shield. And at this point you can see we got 5.6k strength because of it. So yeah, obviously damage reduction, and if this was a GA, we'd have a little bit more defense anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much with the shield. Now when it comes to Zealot's Covenant and Zealot's Oath, this is a very important aspect. It gives us more stacks of fervor, and that really translates into more damage from multiple aspects and multiple sources. And yeah, it's just a banging aspect. Speaking of Jack's favor, if you have 3 fervor stacks, you get 60%. If you have 4, you go to 80%. So here's a prime example. Of course, as you can see, we got a lot of cooldown reduction. We've kind of went on the attack speed as well. We want to hit that 100% attack speed. And then last but not least, it's actually pretty cool, is Redirected Force. You gain 180% multiplicative critical strike damage as long as you're being hit when you're blocking. So as long as you block an attack, you get double the damage, so it's 90 goes to 180. Pretty cool. As we can see, again, more cooldown reduction, and yeah, decent amount of multiplicative damage. So the reason why we've gone with cooldown reduction is Zenith itself primarily, like also Aegis of course, but it is a way. Now there is a way where you can remove that cooldown reduction from here, and you can use a separate Paragon board, which is essentially Relentless, and you can get your cooldown reduction, all of your cooldown reduction that you need from there. But this board makes you move constantly, right? So it's not a bad thing, it's actually a decent thing, and we're gonna talk about Paragon boards a bit later, but it's pretty much an option which you can go for. And this way you can get yourself more free affix slots around here, and kind of keep up Zenith in a good position. Also, if you combine both, you can reach with like you can reach Zenith on just having like 6 seconds cooldown. So there are plenty of ways to kind of make sure that Zenith has you know, a very fast and quick ways to like reset itself. But if you kind of keep on dashing forward and you wind up Zenith and you keep on doing these things, you don't really need the cooldown reduction that much. Like, you will eventually run out of Zenith, and you just have to be like smart and just wait maybe 11 seconds, and then you can restart the whole process. But once you wind up Zenith, it almost doesn't go away, right? It takes a while for it to wind up, but let's say you start doing a pit or any other like activity, it will, as long as you're hitting monsters, it will wind up. And once it winds up, yeah, it takes a long time for it to disappear. So as long as you consistently, yeah, provide attacks and things like that, even without like hitting monsters, you're still able to maintain a decent duration of it and stuff like that. So yeah, quite important when you're hitting something that you have the Fanaticism Aura. The reason why is because you get more attack speed. By getting more attack speed, you're able to cast it faster, you're able to wind it up more, essentially, and keep it up for longer. So yeah, it's kind of a good thing to have monsters around, because otherwise it will run eventually out. But yeah, once you kind of reach up a point where you've defeated a lot of monsters over time and you've kept it up and running for a while, it takes ages for it to disappear. So that's why I've kind of decided, okay, well, it's not really worth to use the cooldown that much. And there are a few other reasons why I haven't, which we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, this is pretty much the gear. Now, when it comes to Oath, of course, you want to go with the Zealot Oath. So the thing is, obviously it echoes the damage, right, as soon as you cast the Zealot skill. Now, one of the other things why you want to have Zealot Covenant is because it also boosts the damage of the copied attacks. So at this point, it's like on its own, it's only 70%. Once you put up the aspect, it goes to 37%, right? So pretty much a lot better. So yeah, this is one of the other reasons why you want this aspect. Now, moving on to Paragon Boards, we have Spirit over here, pretty decent, a lot of damage, nothing too impressive. We have gone here with Challenger. As you kind of seen, strength is pretty cool. So the more strength we get, at this point it's like each node is 15 strength, 10 from the actual Challenger, and then plus 50%, so it's 15. It's pretty awesome. Shield Bearer, 100%, 110% multiplicative damage of your block chance, bam, goes to a decent value. Gives a small block chance, so between ages, these boards and yeah, between ages, this board and the Zakrum shield, we got a more or less 100% chance. Yeah, a little bit more max life around the place and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty good for survival on hardcore. Now, Fervent is one of the things you really want to have. More critical strike chance, more critical strike damage for each stack of Fervor we have. Yet another reason to have 4 stacks. Same goes for the Glyph, 5% more extra damage for that extra Fervor stack. Yeah, it's just pretty decent. Now, you get Outmatch here. The reason why you want Outmatch exactly in this board, which is Endure, we get a pretty solid amount, is the lucky hit chance. So you get 20% more lucky hit chance, which obviously helps Zenith to proc more procs from Griswold's Opus to do more damage, and at the same time to make enemies vulnerable. So having lucky hit chance from both Air of Perdition and this board is actually quite decent. Of course, more max life and more healing around the place. Last but not least, Preacher. Now, with Preacher, you can choose to have Preacher, but you can also choose to have Endure. Like with Endure, you're gonna get 80% multiplicative damage as a Paragon board, a lot more cooldown reduction. But with Preacher, you're able to hit your attack speed cap way quicker, and 65% of a 110% attack speed is about 71%. So you don't lose that much multiplicative, but what you gain in return is a lot more max life. All right, and you can do a very quick an interesting thing over here. You can put Revenge. So Revenge is pretty decent on its own because it gives us like about 15% more multiplicative damage from Thorns and then another 12% or even more. But it also boosts the max life value of this node. So you can really get a lot of max life around here. And of course more attack speed. So it's pretty decent. We're still working on the intellect here. And yeah, a bit more healing and a bit more max life. So if you want a tough build which can survive hardcore and can survive a lot of pit punishment and stuff like that, you kind of want to go with this board, and you want to go with Temerity essentially for more survival. But if you want to go a bit more on the damage side, you got Thibaut and you got Relentless as a board. You also have Castle as a board, which can be pretty decent and give you more damage compared to say other boards. So there are options and variations. So yeah, this is pretty much the Paragons. Now, when it comes to the Talisman, we have gone with the Dauntless Fate, of course. Now, this is one of the sad paths. Before, in previous seasons, we could go to about 200% attack speed as a cap. Now, it won't let us go more than 110%. The reason why it's actually 10% more than the 100% is because of this set gives us more cast speed, which goes to 110, which gives us like 10% more cast speed. So even if we're stacking Fanaticism auras and we're like increasing the potency of Fanaticism aura, we're unable to go to more than 110%, which is a little bit sad because Zenith, the more attack speed it has, the faster it spins, the more damage it provides. But sadly, Blizzard has decided to keep it up like that. So as you can see, we've gone with a lot of Zealot skills and some resistances and stuff. So yeah, a little bit more damage here as well. So pretty decent. Of course, Fists of Fate. Fists of Fate are pretty decent for this build because you get a ton of like attacks, and the more instances of attacks you get, Fists of Fate work the better, essentially. You get more chances to proc more damage, essentially, with Fists of Fate by using Zenith. So yeah, I've tried other ones. I've tried Crown of Lucian, I've tried other options, but at this point, Fists of Fate seems to be one of the best options because of the consistency of attacks that we kind of provide with the build. So yeah, when it comes to the set as well, like we said, more damage reduction from Rally, so we go to about 50% damage reduction, and of course 200% more multiplicative damage. And this is the cool part. I think it's more or less an improvement. Like, you want to be able to use the after images, and by moving you're actually able to proc them. Now, back in the past, when we were using Zenith in previous seasons, if we were starting to move around, we would lose DPS. So the best thing was with Zenith in previous seasons was just to stand still and spam it. Now, because of this set, we're not being punished DPS wise by moving. So if we start moving, we actually kind of keep our damage, because these after images kind of spawn. So you have an option where you can just like use the endure board, so you can like keep on moving and keep on getting damage, and these after images are just going to keep on doing more damage as well. Or you can just stand still, but in both cases you have the DPS that you have, like, more or less. So it's a good way. Also, you want to be able to like reposition yourself during a fight and stuff like that, so like you don't get hit by explosions and stuff like that. And essentially, by having this set and having this special effect, you don't lose the damage, because they essentially give you the option to just keep on recasting Zenith as you kind of go. So pretty decent. And yeah, last but not least, Mercenaries were here. Keeps you alive, gives you a bit more damage, and of course Subu for more critical strike damage. So this is pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a thumbs up, and there's gonna be a link in the build for the description for the video, so for the build. So yeah, hope you stay safe and have a good one. Cheers.